if you're trying to please everybody, then everyone is going to be your competitor. And that's too much. You're not going to be able to compete with department stores or every store. I mean, you're a small business. You don't have the kind of resources that you would need. When you niche down, your competitors are going to get smaller too. Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real.
Chelsea, we are back for another episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast. How are you, girl?
I'm good. Well, I just told you that Mercury is in the microwave, but all things considered, I'm great. So,
I mean, it is it is the start of a week. So there you go. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go ahead and remind everybody, if you are new here, we release a episode of the S.O.B Marketing Podcast every Wednesday. So be sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you could get notifications whenever we release a new episode. And if you also aren't following us on YouTube, we are under the Seasoned Marketer, or you could find this podcast episode under the S.O.B Marketing Podcast on YouTube as well. So that way you get to see our questionable pretty faces.
I love it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start off our conversation for this week, which is going to be about niching down. To open this conversation, though, I do want to ask you, Vivian, have you ever heard of the ice cream option theory?
I have not.
Okay. I don't know if that's actually the name. I don't remember the theory's name, but I do remember the premise. We talked about it while I was in college. It's basically the theory that if you're an ice cream shop and you have too many options, then people are going to become overwhelmed. They're going to have a bad experience. They might even just give up and not purchase anything. There's a sweet spot between having too few and too many options. And I think it's a really good analogy for just niching down in general, because there's a point in time where, if you niche down too much, you might be limiting yourself. But if you don't niche down at all, then you're really just hindering your ability to help your customers.
Chelsea, you hit the nail on the head. I don't know how many other people experience this, but when is the last time that you went to the Cheesecake Factory?
Last year, I think.
Okay, do you have the same response I do, where you start sweating bullets when it comes time to order because you're like, I haven't made it to page 50 of this 110-page menu, right?
Yeah.
And then it's almost like it's the sense of overwhelm because they just have everything available. So like pasta, chicken tenders, pizza, like everything. So it doesn't, Asian.
Yeah.
It's not really niche down, and it almost feels like it's just too much. It's just way too much.
Exactly. Well, I will say, though, I get that response from like almost any menu half the time, because I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I want. But I'm just indecisive. That's a whole different thing. But that's a great example.
I'm also really glad that you brought up the fact that there's this stress factor when it comes to thinking about niching down, because a lot of people really are afraid to do it because they think what's happening is they're limiting themselves and they're saying no to money. That's what it feels like. It feels like, well, if you're making me drill down on who I potentially want to target, it means that I have to say no to this bigger pot of money or this bigger target audience.
Yeah, and I understand that point of view, but my response is always you are actually limiting yourself and losing out on money when you don't niche down because you're not, the more things that you're trying to do, you're not going to be able to provide for your customers a good experience. And at the end of the day, what brings in money is how your customers feel about your business.
Maybe the best way to start this conversation about niching down is to review the fact that it's almost like with, okay, your business is a personality. Consider it a person.
Yes.
Just like any other person, the more you know yourself, the better you're going to be able to attract the people that are right for you, right? So if you're trying to go out there and be something you're not, you're going to attract all kinds of weird people into your life, and it's just not good. It's the same thing for your small business. So what happens is if you're not niching down, sometimes what that means is that you are too broad in your scope and you don't really truly know what your small business is or who it's geared for. And so what you're doing then is you're attracting all of the wrong people into your small business, the people that are not going to be satisfied because your product or service just isn't going to serve them the same way. And so I do think that it does require people to sit down and to think about who they truly or what they truly want their small business to be, and, you know, the type of people that they want to attract into that small business.
Absolutely. And when you attract the right kind of people, it's going to help you create a community, like we always talk about, create brand loyalty. If you haven't niched down and you're just attracting random people, you're not going to be able to create that relationship with them because there is no relationship. Not niching down can really hinder, I think, your branding.
Absolutely. The best analogy that I've heard recently on this is, let's say that you're in a boat out to sea and you're fishing. The sea is endless. It's very big. And if you are not niching down, it means you're just kind of throwing your bait out there and you're getting any type of fish, right? Instead of approaching it from the standpoint of saying, you know, red snapper is what I want, therefore I'm going to go out and try to fish for red snapper or whatever it is. And so it's almost like, and I don't know much about fishing, y'all. I know very little, but it is my understanding that, especially in South Carolina, there are places. So, like, you know, going to a canal or to a lake or something, you catch different fish than you do going out into the saltwater. Okay, just very different. So that's the whole thing. It's almost like you have to, if as a fisherman, you don't know, you're just going out there to, you know, to willy-nilly catch anything, you're going to catch stuff. It's just, it may not be what you intend or are looking for, right? So you can't feed your family off of little tiny baby fish, but you can feed them off of red snapper. So I think that's just like the whole thing is, if you're, Chelsea's like, this is the worst analogy. If you are not setting
I think
some
it's
of this stuff or laying it out.
I think it's interesting that you picked a fish analogy when neither of us like really fish. So I'm like, yeah, what you said sounds correct. Sure.
Well, I mean, there are people that fish and know this. There are watering holes that are known, you know, to, what do you call it, to have a certain type of fish in them. And that's what people go out there and look for. And so I think that's the thing is, if you're just kind of casting your bait just to catch anything, you're bound to catch something. It's just not going to be the thing that you're looking for. And a lot of times, I think the part that we don't give enough thought to is, that's good and fine. And you may think money is money. I don't care where it comes from, but it drains your resources when it's not the right type of customer or client. And that's the truth, because you may end up spending way more time trying to salvage or trying to please a customer or client that just isn't your type, right?
Yeah. I love that. I mean, let's think of it from a marketing standpoint too. If you're just trying to reach anybody and everybody, you're going to spend a lot more money on all of your advertising and your marketing initiatives because you're not able to narrow down your target audience or do anything like that because you're just kind of like, oh, well, anybody is good enough for me. And yeah, it's just going to drain your resources.
The other thing is the quality. So, like you're saying, is you may find when you're niching down, the biggest advantage that you have is the fact that you kind of get to know that person a lot better. And therefore, you know what resources, where they hang out, what they're doing. And then you're able to target your ads or put your product and service in front of them when they are looking for that type of product or service. The other thing is when you do niche down, you are actually attracting people that are going to be your brand evangelist. And we talk about this all the time. They're going to be the people that once they're happy with your brand, they're going to go out there. They're way more energized to talk about it, to share and spread the word about it. So in a way, you're repelling those that just aren't, your cup of tea anyways. And then you're attracting and magnetizing the type of people that really are needing that service of yours.
Well, and let's talk about brand loyalty too, because when you're attracting the right kind of person, when you've niched down and found your target audience, those are going to be the people who come to you consistently. A great example of this is Walmart, which Walmart is on Sunday, December 10th. I'm so excited. But they are a market that has focused down on the eccentric and the weird stuff, right? They've niched down and they focus on bringing in small businesses that are eccentric, and that means they bring in that audience of eccentric people. They could have been a regular farmer's market, right? They could have been a regular pop-up small business event, that sort of thing. And that would have been fine, and people would still have come to it. But because they've narrowed and niched down and they focus on those eccentric and weird people, you're going to get those people like me that come consistently. I have gone to almost every single Walmart this year. I didn't go to the one in October because it was Tim's birthday and he would have had a fit if I left him and he didn't want to go. But my point is, I consistently go to those things. The same small businesses consistently are there. They have created a community of people that they wouldn't have been able to create if they didn't niche down. Would I be willing to drive all the way to Columbia, which it's not that bad of a drive, but would I have driven all the way out to Columbia just to go to a regular farmer's market? No, there are plenty of farmer's markets here in Charleston, but I am willing to drive to Columbia to go to Walmart because they've created that community.
And so maybe the other part of it too is that it's almost like you're doing a disservice to the community you're building if you're not appropriately kind of vetting out the type of people you're attracting, right? So what it does is it starts to dilute that community if you're just out there and you're not niching down. Like it really, it stifles you from being able to grow that a lot faster. Let's take Star Trek. Let's take Star Wars. Let's take Comic-Con, Legos, crime podcast. I mean, all of these people do a really good job because they are niche down. They do a great job of building this sense of community, like what you're talking about with Walmart, where it's like, hey, if we're waving our flag, like if this is you, here's your community. If you like this kind of stuff, here we are. So I do think it does help to expedite that, to get to know people better, to really be able to service and to serve the people that, they're going to be your people over time. And also what comes with loyalty is money. Okay. So the barrier for asking someone that, like you go to Walmart consistently because you enjoy the vendors that are there. You're going to find quirky things that you can't find anywhere else, right? At any other farmer's market. And so now you go there with the mindset that you're going to drop cash, right? You're like, I'm
Yeah.
looking for some, I don't want to call it creepy. I'm looking for some unique stuff. And because I'm not going to get the opportunity to buy this stuff outside of this market, I'm just going to go and I'm going to
Yeah.
drop, I'm going to take cash to spend.
Exactly. That is such a great point. And something else that I want to talk about is competition too. Because if you're trying to please everybody, then everyone is going to be your competitor. And that's too much. You're not going to be able to compete with department stores or every store. I mean, you're a small business. You don't have the kind of resources that you would need. When you niche down, your competitors are going to get smaller too. You are not able to compete with everybody.
Do you love making crafts and working on your small business but struggle to get them in front of customers?
Do craft fairs, events, or pop-ups leave you feeling overwhelmed or frustrated?
Introducing Rock Your Fair, the course designed to help you succeed in the world of craft fairs, pop-ups, and events, created by 2 marketing professionals with over 15 years of experience. Rock Your Fair is perfect for anyone who's new to the game or just wants to step up their game.
Our step-by-step approach will guide you through everything you need to know, from choosing the right events, to setting up your booth, to marketing your products effectively.
And you know what? You'll also get access to us for personalized coaching and feedback so you can put your best foot forward.
Do not let craft fairs, pop-ups, and events hold you back. Sign up for Rock Your Fair today and start rocking your way to success.
For a limited time, get access to our free mini course. Simply head over to our website at www.theseasonmarketer.com and click on workshops.
To your point, that pool of competitors does shrink quite a bit. And also, it allows you to utilize the money that you're using for marketing, promotions, advertising to really exponentially grow and become way more effective, right? So let's think about this from the case of a Facebook ad. One of the things that Chelsea and I, and this is a real life example that Chelsea and I recently did, is we have a course that's targeted for people that are using craft fairs, pop-ups, and events to sell their products. Okay, so think if you're a soap maker and you go out to a farmer's market, that's the type of person, small business owner, that we are targeting. One of the things that we did with our Facebook ad is because we were able to niche down on that particular product, we knew who the ideal person was for that course. We started running a Facebook ad that happened to be an interactive quiz. And this quiz is basically one that says, are you ready to start selling at craft fairs, pop-ups, or events? Now, the type of person that we're targeting, if they haven't started selling, this is the quiz they want to take. And it's worked like gangbusters, y'all, because we actually have over 400 and something interactions on it. We have over 380 likes on the actual ad, and the amount of people that it's actually put onto our email list is a lot. Okay, so I think we've collected at least like 100, probably more than 100 emails straight from this. Those are people that we then, after curating, massaging them a little bit, telling them about the other free resources we have, in a couple weeks, we can send them an email after they've joined that says, hey, by the way, we happen to have this course if you are looking for something that is targeted that will help you sell more at these events. But that's what you want to be doing. I recently watched something from Alex Hormozi, who is a big business guy. He knows how to sell, and he's just really great because he keeps everything very matter of fact. And he said, the truth is, if you don't know what to say no to, you don't have a strategy.
Exactly. That's a really correct statement.
Yeah, well, because having a strategy, niching down, means that there's going to be all of this stuff you're going to say yes to, but equally, there's going to be all this stuff you have to say no to because you don't have the bandwidth, the time, or the resources to even mess with that. So I think that's the thing, is niching down is that first step in really identifying and saying, this is who my small business is. This is who I am for. This is who my products and services are really going to help the most.
Yeah, and I think I do want to say, so we're telling small businesses who are listening right now, go ahead and niche down. You might be wondering, well, how exactly am I going to do that? It's what Vivian just said. You need to start with, who are you? Who is your small business? Who are you? Who is your small business? Understanding your branding is going to be your first step. And really, it should be the first step you do when you even start your small business. Because if you don't understand who you are to begin with, you're going to be, I don't want to say wasting, but wasting a lot of time and a lot of resources, because it's so important to really understand who you are, because that's going to help you find the people that you're going to attract, niche down, all that stuff.
And let's have a healthy discussion with this. I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I do think it's a very important step. I don't think it's step one. I think step one is, what is my product or service, right? And like, what problem am I fixing? Because then what that does is it gives you the target audience, right? So it's almost like you're leading the other way. You're like, who am I for? And then this is my brand. This is my business. But it is very much all the stuff that you should be thinking about at the very beginning. The quicker you do this, or the quicker you understand your business better, the easier it is to go out there and to sell. Now, I will say that if you feel the pressure and you're listening to this conversation and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just kind of confused. I'm in a place where it's confusion in my small business. Do not be afraid to let some of this happen organically, right? So sometimes the most important step is to just start doing. Right. And then as you test and as you see how things are evolving, then you start to shape that niche down audience. Because sometimes you won't know right off the bat, because there are opportunities that are just coming up organically.
I think that's a great point. I do want to bring up, you can rebrand. If you've niched down and you're like, you know what, I'm wrong. This is not the target audience for me. This is not working out. Rebrand, find a different audience and see if that works better. You're not stuck with things. Your business is, like we talk about, it's kind of like a person. You are allowed to change and evolve. Your business is going to change. And when we're talking about rebranding, maybe you rebrand and you change your niche because you realize that you're an expert in a different field. Being an expert in your field is wonderful. Go follow that niche, because customers, clients, all that stuff, they're going to feel more comfortable with you and they're going to trust you more if you can show them you know what you're talking about. So niching down is also going to help you be able to express and show the knowledge that you have curated over the years. And it's going to help you be able to, with content marketing, like we talked about the other week, it's going to be able to let you show people who are interested that you have the information that they're looking for. It's all about finding the right people. It's matchmaking.
Yeah. And so to that point, Chelsea, here's a personal example. So I do healthcare marketing, and you did too, right? When you were in the corporate world still.
I did.
So we kind of had this like choice, right? We could go into and niche down and stay into healthcare marketing. But instead, I know because, for example, when I started the Season Marketer years ago, I had experience working for a local chamber of commerce, and that's really what introduced me to small business sales, and all of that good stuff. And so I was able to mesh the marketing expertise that I had with that small business experience that I had on the back end. And then that's why whenever, the Season Marketer came about, I thought that what was missing was somebody that would talk to marketing in practical ways for small business owners. And the small business owners that we're talking about are the people that are doing their marketing in-house still. They don't have these big budgets that are going to go out and hire a marketing firm that costs $5,000 a month. They're just not to that point. They're the people that are running lean. They have less than 5 employees. They're doing a lot of this stuff hands-on themselves. They're doing their own social media marketing. They're doing their own blogging. They're, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where for us, when I started it, I knew it was going to be small business. And as the years went on, I was like, there really is a need for people that will talk about marketing that you can do on the daily and that you're capable of doing as a small business owner, not just the, hey, pay me $10,000 a month and I'll handle your advertising and marketing.
That's a great example
Which, no
because
shade to people that do that. Listen, if you got the budget for it, perfect. But, a lot of people don't. So
exactly. And I think it's really interesting that you say this and bring up this personal example, because for a while there, we were saying we were marketing ourselves as for small business owners who have five or less employees who are doing it on your own. So we actually got really specific too, because again, like you just said, that's the type of small business owner we're trying to attract. Not that there's anything wrong with any other small business owner. Like you just said, if you have a big budget, that's great. But we're really here to help the small business owner that's doing it all hands on themselves, trying to figure out the marketing world. I want to give an example. I'm not going to use any names, but
this ought to be good.
I think a good example of what happens when you don't niche down is there's an allergy office who also does plastic surgery. Let me explain how it loops around. The allergy office has an ENT, an ear, nose, and throat doctor. The ear, nose, and throat doctor is also a facial plastic surgeon. Since ear, nose, and throat go with allergies, they're like, great, we love having him here. Oh, he can also do facial plastic surgery. That sort of relates to ENT. So now they're all together one big thing. That is fine. That's really confusing for people. And it also makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because are you going to go to a facial plastic surgeon and get a facelift in an allergy office? I want to say, when you're niching down, you might think, oh, you know what? This is related to my small business. It'll work. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying that the more steps you go, the further away from your primary brand you're going to get, and the more confusing your business is going to become. And it's going to you're not going to be niche down anymore. You're going to be opening yourself up, and it's going to get confusing.
Well, and it's almost like it's almost like there's not enough attention to the fact that, or legitimacy to the fact that the person that's coming in for for plastic surgery, is wanting a very different type of experience than the person that's coming in for a surgery that is maybe a medical necessity, right? And we can make the argument that both, that you can easily be a person that's seeking both, right, at the same time. But when you think plastic surgery, you think, cosmetic plastic surgery, you think very posh, I want everything to be sterile looking, clean, have a high end feel to it. I'm coming to you because, you're doing stuff, very reputable work. So it's not necessarily, it's like you have to have the clinical part of it down too, but like you're saying, they're just two different target audiences. And so there are going to be times when you are butting up against that if you're not very clear on who you're for, and it can be done. That's not to say that they're not going to be successful. It can be done. It just does muddy it or make it a little harder to be able to reach out to both of those types of people at the same time.
Like you just said, we're not saying it can't be done, but it's just going to be, you're really going to be making things difficult for yourself. And you might just turn off some people that would have come to you if you had niched down more.
Yeah, absolutely. The key part to all of this really with the niching down, I think, is that it opens up this opportunity for you to get really specific and clear on who it is that you are trying to attract into your doors.
If there's one thing you want someone to take away from this conversation, what would it be, Vivian?
It would be for me to try and experiment. If you have been feeling a little scared, maybe you've been thinking about niching down, but you're a little scared because you feel like it's going to take money away from you because it's pulling, a big group of people, a big chunk of people out of that pipeline. I would say experiment, and you don't have to go all in on it, but test it out, right? So let's say you have a niche down population. Let's say I don't know, you wanted to offer a course on something that is, very niche down. Go ahead and try just a few. You don't have to do a full blown course. Maybe you try just a Zoom event that you charge $10 for or something to see if people are interested in it. And then if it is successful, you grow from there and you kind of understand like, hey, there's something to this, right? I'm on the right track. Yeah. So you can make this a transition. It doesn't have to be a clear, cut it off. But I've seen this in the YouTube world a lot of times. People will start their YouTube channels with a broader scope. There's this one guy in particular. He was a doctor, or he was studying to be a doctor. Then he became a doctor, but he started his YouTube channel while he was still studying to be a doctor. And then he realized he's very smart and very efficient at studying. So then he started uploading videos teaching other people that were in medical school how to study for tests to make them way more productive. Yeah. Okay. Well, then over time, it started to shift. He got viewers, but then what he noticed was he was very good at talking about productivity in general. And so he started shifting towards productivity. And now that's what his entire channel is about. It's about, how to be more productive in your day. And that's what he's known as an expert in. And so I think that's what I'm talking about. It can transition. You're not going to get it right very few times on the first attempt. So allow yourself to experiment and to see what it is that you're niching down into. And then more than likely, you're going to find that jackpot. It takes a little trial and error, but you'll find it. Now, Charles, what do you want people to walk away from this episode with? What's the main takeaway?
I think my main takeaway is don't be afraid to niche down because you're going to deter people from coming to you, because really at the end of the day, you want to find your people in your community, because those are going to be the people that stick with you. They're going to be your brand evangelists. They're going to be your loyal customers that come back to you consistently. That's the kind of audience you want. You are not for everyone. Why would you want to be for everyone when you have a personality and something that specific people will love and always come back to you for?
Yeah, why are y'all trying to attract tilapia when you could be getting red snappers?
I love it. I don't know why you went with fish. Okay. Well, I hope this conversation was helpful for you guys. If you still feel like you have questions about creating a niche, niching down, anything like that, leave it in the comments. Send us an email at help@theseasonmarketer. Send us a DM on social media. You can reach out to us in any way you want. We will answer your questions. If you have a topic that you want us to talk about, same thing, just reach out to us and we will gladly answer your questions, take your topics into consideration. Please remember to subscribe, follow, leave us a 5-star review, only 5 stars. We won't take anything less. And go out there and niche down, find your people, and be the best SOB you can be.